If it looks like I'm filming in some run-down, dilapidated shed, because I absolutely am. Years ago, my grandfather used this shed to fix his boat or work on his truck or, whatever else a man needs. And for years, it has sat useless as a pile of junk. However, whenever I come in here, I see nothing but opportunity. Nothing but a space that allows you to create something. Yes, there's tons of work that needs to be done. Trash needs to be picked up, that light needs to be fixed, and tons of metal to scrap. Gotta figure out some sort of flooring. However, I see nothing but a base of operations when I'm here. You know, like in a war, when the general's in the dugout, this is exactly what that feels like. Or at least feels like what it could be. And so, that idea just gives me this longing for war. And that may sound insane, it kinda does, but what I mean by that is what I referred to in an earlier video called the mundanities of a mythless age. But there just seems to be no adventure anymore, no sort of great battle that men enter into to either die valiantly or come out on the other side as one of the greatest who ever lived. Back at one of my old jobs, we had this older man that would come in and help take out trash and, drive people around, whatever we needed. Because he was an older man and he was bored. He wanted something to do. And I would talk to him about his experiences in Vietnam. And as much of an atrocity as that conflict was, the more that I heard his stories, the more I felt some sort of instinctual calling towards it. I told him that almost sounded more fun than this prison of a 9-to-5 life. And I told him by fun, I meant that there's an adventure involved. It's not just selling a little piece of your soul and time every day. There's something to be accomplished. There is an uncharted area to explore, to conquer. And this isn't the only thing that makes me think of this. Every Christmas, my grandfather and I watch a movie. Last year, we watched Man of Steel. For someone who watches strictly Westerns and military movies, he absolutely loved it. In this most recent year, we watched the movie of the Great War, 1917. And you watch the two main characters, you watch the two men go through great tragedies, see unthought of horrors, and skim the edges of death. However, I felt that same feeling again. That same instinctual longing, that same unfulfilled desire. I admitted to my grandpa that everything that's going on in this movie, these two men that are tasked with sending a message across enemy lines so that they can stop an attack that they know is a trap, everything they go through to get there was more appealing and looked more fun than my current life. The brutal mundanity of a 9-to-5 is punishing to the souls of men. How are we supposed to be prepared for a fight when the day is spent toiling? Where is the fulfillment? Where is the reward? Where is the glory in any of it? So recently I have made quite a drastic change. I gave up that lifestyle. I gave up that 9-to-5 lifestyle. It was driving me insane with its consistent obscurity. I was a major player at this company and the top salesman by far. However, nothing about the rat race of a city compelling at all. It felt like torture. It felt like the same thing every single day. And something about that just doesn't have any aspect of fulfillment to it. What am I supposed to do, really? Ascend to the highest levels of a place with a ceiling? I don't think so. I can't do that anymore. So I've made that drastic change, and I've moved back to where I originate. I have returned to the origination of my being. This place is Krypton to me, and it has many similarities with the desolate and ruined planet. And I mentioned that my grandfather and I watched Man of Steel the previous Christmas. And the amazing thing about that film is Zod's mission is noble.
This council has been disbanded.
On whose authority?
Mine.
I take it you're Zod?
General Zod, our commander.
It's all right, Leora. We can forgive Cal any lapses in decorum. He's a stranger to our ways.
I exist
only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born. Look at this. We could have built a new Krypton in this squalor, but you chose the humans over us.
Zod's mission is justified from the perspective of a Kryptonian. Because if it is for their race to survive, what Kryptonian that wasn't raised entirely on Earth would have to say against that? How could they oppose? How could a Kryptonian oppose Zod's mission? Because it means the survival of their people. And I'm sure there's some anti-life loving Kryptonian out there that thought Krypton deserved its fate. But think about all it has accomplished. Krypton established an intergalactic empire. Krypton made the most incredible scientific advancements in all of the universe. Krypton created a utopia for a time being. And that sounds like something worth fighting for. If a Kryptonian were to spend his days in the kryptonite mines, which slowly drain his life force, then of what use would he be to Zod's mission? I believe that Krypton had to deprogram the working class of Krypton. It's why they established artificial population control, because they had to deprogram the longing for war from the kryptonite miner. Because why? Why would the Kryptonian spend his days mining an already depleted planet when he could join Zod in his mission? Why would he spend his day wasting away on a withering planet when your home can be reestablished? So here, in this dugout, will we fulfill the greatest desire of men and the longing for war.